Hello, my name is Ben Selsor. Welcome to the very first episode of It Better Than Paddington 2. This is a little movie review show that we're going to be doing to determine whether or not any given movie is a better movie than the blockbuster hit Paddington 2. I'm your host, Ben Selsor, as I already said, and with me today is my guest. Would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Yes, of course. I'm Adam Reinhardt, good friend of Ben's, and very happy to be here. Thanks for having me, man.
I'm very happy that you're here,
dude. I'm thrilled.
I'm thrilled because today we're going to be talking about a movie that is sort of the source of the whole title of this show, Citizen Kane. For those who don't know, a while ago, Paddington 2 and Citizen Kane both had a 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Then a negative review of Citizen Kane surfaced and brought its rating down to 99%. So it was a big meme for a while that Paddington 2 was the greatest movie ever made, as Citizen Kane is considered to have that honor. So I'm not much of a film person. I'm not a film bro. I'm more of a movie guy, I like to say.
There's a difference.
It's a very important distinction.
We're bonded by the love of movies always.
Yeah, of course. So I am very passionate about movies, but like I have like a little bit of knowledge of what goes into them and like what makes a movie good or not. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't consider myself an expert on the subject, but you studied cinema if in your undergrad, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I graduated in 2021. Wouldn't be so crazy as to call myself an expert of any kind, but big movie enjoyer for sure. And yeah, I mean, I've got a degree on the wall that says I should know what I'm talking about, so maybe that means something.
The piece of paper is the only qualification that you need.
You gotta get the piece of paper.
So, Citizen Kane was made in 1941,
yes,
I believe.
Yeah.
And I feel like today there's sort of this perception of movies from that era that they're like super artsy and either like really good or really bad. Mm-hmm. Like really good to like dudes that are super into film, yeah, and bad to everyone else, aka normal people. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts very much aligned with what you just said, actually, because even leading up to watching this movie, for the show, I wouldn't go as far as to say I was dreading it, because I definitely wasn't, but I
was dreading it.
You were dreading it?
I was, because I watched both movies before we came here today.
Nice.
And I looked up like the length of both of them,
yeah, and
I saw that Citizen Kane was 2 hours long, and I was like, that is way longer than I expected for a movie from the 40s. Like, I didn't know that was possible back then.
Yeah.
So I was worried, like, is this going to be the most boring 2 hours of my life?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I hadn't seen it since my senior year of high school when I had like a silver screen class, and that was really cool getting to see that movie in high school. But I'm also like 17, 18 when I saw it, so
don't have like as much of the appreciation for
it. Right. So I didn't remember a damn thing from watching it then, and it also had very little, if any, impact on me then, because I didn't even know I liked movies back then.
Like I was in a very basic film class my sophomore year of high school where we like learned elements of cinematography and stuff, and we of course learned about the rosebud scene from the beginning of this film, which I think is probably the most famous part of this movie. Definitely the part that even if you don't know the scene, you do know the line rosebud, more than likely.
Meme to death.
so true. But honestly, like, it's such a small part of the movie that like when it happened and the movie kept going, like I was like, oh wow, like I thought that was going to be like a way bigger deal. Like, of course, the entire plot hinges on it,
right?
Technically, but like the scene itself, the moment, which is like this big moment in film history, isn't very much of the movie.
Yeah. It's just kind of thrown in there at the start. It feels like the inciting incident, I suppose, and it's just like, here it is. Here's the rosebud scene, and then it's like, okay, here we go. Here's the newsreel. He's dead, and then you're in the movie.
Crazy.
It's interesting.
The narration at the beginning, I wasn't a huge fan of like the narration mixed with reading.
Yeah,
because I'm not somebody who keeps my eyes glued to the screen the entire time whenever I'm watching movies.
Oh yeah, I understand.
Like
that.
I have to look away sometimes to do other things. I have to like eat some food or go grab a soda or something.
Yeah.
Like I can't sit still under the best of circumstances.
No, yeah, I get it. That's the fun of watching a movie at home anyway.
Right. But I did really like how the narration was very much like, oh, we're like reading a news article.
Yeah.
We're reading like multiple news articles, and like the text that you read is like the title of each article. I thought that was a very cool detail that like I didn't even like pick up on until like halfway through the intro.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's what they're doing. Okay, it makes sense now.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool because like you see like the flurry of newspapers and stuff before you even understand the significance of the newspaper.
Right. Because you don't know who Charles Kane is.
Yeah, because you don't know what it is, so you think you're just being fed exposition. It's like newspaper. He's dead. I feel like I just had this thought now that you said that, but it's like that's a really neat way for them to start it, because at that point you have no idea the significance of it, and then you find out that he owned a ton of different newspapers and stuff.
He was like super rich.
Yeah.
And like super influential. And like I just like had this thought now, but like the movie is kind of, the story is told in reverse. Like you see the ending, and then you go back to like the very beginning of his life, and through like a series of flashbacks, you figure out how he got to the point he was now through the like POV of the reporter, Mr. Thompson, who I would like to talk about. He's not much of a character.
Not really.
I'm pretty sure you never see his face the entire movie.
Yeah.
And I thought that it was like a really interesting choice to have it that way, because it kind of really puts the audience into the shoes of the reporter. Like it's just like this faceless character that you're experiencing the story through by being told other people's stories about Charles Kane. And I thought that was a very interesting choice that I didn't really pick up on until close to the end of the movie.
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of how The Great Gatsby is, with like you have Nick Carraway as the narrator,
right?
But Gatsby's the main character. There were times that I would like forget that he was there, because of how little he actually does. He kind of just like is asking the questions to the other characters, and then we go into a flashback and he's not involved at all until he has to ask more questions.
Yeah, he's very much the device that just like, okay, like, and like you said, we don't see his face, right?
Right.
So, at least I don't remember seeing his face either.
If you do see his face, it's like at the very beginning of the movie, and it's such like a non-notable moment that I couldn't even describe him to you. He has a hat, he wears glasses, but like I only see that in silhouette.
Yeah, exactly. The idea of not showing his face at all, and then throughout the whole movie he goes and asks everybody, it almost feels as if you're watching it, and because you don't see his face, and you're like almost like you were assigned the job,
right?
And I that's kind of the way that I took it, and I feel like that works pretty well.
I agree.
It served the story pretty well, and just like Great Gatsby, it's like it's not the Great Nick. It's not
the great Nick Carraway.
Yeah, it's
the amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah,
if you will.
Yeah, it's just like this, It's not Citizen Thompson, It doesn't shy away from the fact that yes, we do not care about this man as a person,
right?
But we need him, and he's important to to find out what we want to find out.
He's very much a conduit for the audience.
Absolutely.
And it was something that I didn't like in The Great Gatsby, but it's something that I actually did kind of like in this movie.
Yeah,
and I think it's just because of how little involvement he has. But like the story itself, like during the opening narration, they were talking about Charles Kane and like how rich he was and how many corporations and stuff he owned and stuff like that. And all I could remember thinking was corporate conglomerate owner dead, boo-hoo.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh no. Anyways.
Oh no.
And like I feel like the movie, like over the course of it, you're supposed to like you get this picture of who Charles Kane was as a person, and that he was like a very complicated person. But by the end, I was still thinking, yeah, he still sucks. He's still like a crappy rich person.
Yeah, exactly.
So I couldn't bring myself to care about him at all. Like maybe in one or two scenes, but
Yeah, I agree. As far as emotional connection to the man that was Charles Foster Kane, I'm not sure.
Foster Kane.
I'm not sure I really had any emotional connection to him, and that's fine. I thought
I don't think you're supposed to like him. I think you're just supposed to understand him a little bit more.
I think it's almost like he shows us who he is throughout his whole life and everything, but Charles Foster Kane, he wouldn't give a shit about about what we think. That's the character.
That was that was a big part of his character too. Like whenever people would bring up like what people think, he would always say something along the lines of like, I tell them what to think, which coming from like a rich newspaper owner, kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
But, like if I heard like the CEO of the New York Times said something about like, we tell people what to think, I would be a little suspicious of that man for the rest of my life.
Yeah, imagine that breaks on Twitter. That would be a problem. The wild thing about him turning out to be such a rich a-hole, near the end and everything. Because at the end, he reaches his peak of bitterness and anger.
Oh, yeah.
And, all that. And so
he's just an angry old rich man.
Yeah. The wild thing about it is, in the beginning, when he inherits all the money and he starts the first newspaper, if I remember correctly, he's publishing stuff against, the rich old people that kind of raised him.
He's like publishing stuff that is like directly calling out another company that he owns like the majority of the shares in.
Yeah.
Which whenever I like saw that part, I was like, okay, this guy's kind of cool actually.
Yeah.
Like for a rich person, pretty epic.
Pretty cool.
And then he slowly gets less and less cool throughout the movie, which was depressing to see.
It was. And yeah, it really started
the rise and fall.
Yeah, very much the rise and fall. It hit pretty hard, near the end when you kind of see it. It's like, okay, yeah, he's just going to die rich and alone in his house. But yeah, in the beginning, it's a big time contrast, because I even had it saved in my notes, because there were some lines that stuck out to me, and before he was horrible and stuff, but more in the beginning, he said Thatcher was giving him hell for like, why do you even want to own a newspaper, like you're losing money, like you lost $1 million, and then
like if I lose $1 million a year,
he said at the rate of $1 million a year, I'll have to close this place in 60 years.
I remember that line. That line, I love that.
It's a good line, dude.
One that I really liked in particular, I can't remember what the scene was, but it also was Mr. Thatcher. Mr. Thatcher like asked him something along the lines of like, what is it that you're trying to be? And Charles Foster Kane said, everything you hate. And I was like, okay,
it's like, okay,
that's kind of cool,
right?
kind of that line kind of goes hard.
It does.
There's a lot of good lines in this movie. Like people always remember Rosebud, but like I'm gonna remember I'll have to close in 60 years. and stuff like that, because those are the really cool lines.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love the way it was written, and I found myself many times rewinding to like catch a line that I like half heard. I'm like, oh shit, that sounded like a really good line, like let me rewind.
The dialogue is super good.
Very well written,
and the writing in general is really cool. I thought that like some of the flashbacks were like a bit long. I thought that like there were scenes that weren't necessarily like unimportant, but like probably could have left them on the cutting room floor. And to me, as somebody with a short attention span whose favorite movies are all stupid, for me it kind of felt like it was dragging a little bit at times, but overall like the way that it's written is really good, and nothing that it shows is like unnecessary information, if that makes any sense.
Right. Well, first of all, Ben, your top 4 on your letterbox is perfect.
Of course.
Don't ever change. I mean, it's perfect, man. It's perfect.
For those wondering, my top 4 are Sonic the Hedgehog, Godzilla vs. Kong, The Big Lebowski, and Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves.
There weren't really any scenes that were glaring to me where I'm like, that shouldn't be in the movie.
Right.
I also, I won't act like the whole time of me watching it I was just like, holy shit, this is like fucking, this is
crazy.
yeah, like this is
quality cinema.
Like oh man, look at this really old dude. What's he gonna say?
Look at this old dude that looks just like the other 3 old dudes.
Yeah.
That's another note that I had. Why does every like 1940s actor
Look the same.
look like the same guy?
Yeah.
Like in particular, Kane and Leland. Leland was his best friend in the movie. They, from certain angles, they looked like the same guy.
Yeah.
They both looked exactly like Orson Welles.
Yeah.
From certain angles, and at times in some scenes it was really starting to confuse me.
It was
And
really
same
throwing
thing
you.
with Mr. Bernstein and Mr. Thatcher. They also looked very similar. They were both like bald old men with glasses.
Yeah.
And in the 1940s, a bald old man with glasses is one type of look that you can have.
Yeah, especially in the group shots where it's like earlier on and stuff in the movie where it's like all those fellas in one room. It's like, okay, you all look the same to me.
And then also, like, every actor and actress in the 40s has a voice, has like one of 3 voices.
Yes.
That they sound like. Like, if you're a dude in a movie in the 1940s, you either have like a big, strong, commanding voice like this,
like
or you have like the higher nasally radio voice like this, stuff like that. And it made things a little confusing at times as well. But that's
right.
just like a 40s thing.
No, yeah.
I don't. That's a problem with like every movie from the 1940s. That's not a Citizen Kane thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You're either a guy like Orson Welles where you have a very commanding voice and presence in a room, you know, where you get that kind of feeling, or you're the guy,
Or you're like Mr. Bernstein.
yeah, or you're the guy who to suddenly bust in a room with your high pitched voice and breaking news about something, be like, oh my god, you're never gonna guess.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the Orson Welles character has to go settle down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It would happen exactly like that too.
yeah,
Like I think you can find that scene in like every like TV show from the 40s and 50s. You can find a scene exactly like that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it didn't happen in this movie.
Yeah, and that department might be where almost unavoidable, I guess, because of the time that, you know.
Yeah, it was just like a trope. Like
But
every time period has its tropes.
Yeah, so that maybe that'd be one thing that would make it show its age a little bit, but I mean, thankfully I wasn't terribly. I'm able to let stuff like that go for the most part as I'm watching, but it's always noted. You know, I'm just like, okay, like they all look the same. It's like,
Right.
okay, they sound the same. It's like, well, that's okay. It's like hopefully the story and everything else is enjoyable, and I thought it was. You know.
Yeah. One thing that I was like really surprised by was just like how good some of the camera work was.
Oh my god, incredible!
Like that one. There's one transition in particular, like right at the beginning, where he goes to talk to Miss Alexander for the first time in the restaurant, I think, and she's crying. Where it's like storming outside, and the camera like descends down like through the window into the restaurant, and I was like, I didn't even know that was possible.
Yeah,
At the time, like because. That would be like kind of difficult to do today.
Yeah. Are you talking about the shot where it like goes through the sign kind of, and then it goes down through the roof?
Yeah.
Is that the
okay?
that
one.
Yeah. That shot was nuts.
It's so good.
Yeah, I think if I remember right, when we were watching it in class at high school, after that shot, if I remember right, I think the teacher literally paused it and he said, "Okay, nobody reacted to how cool that shot is, so we're gonna watch it again."
We're gonna watch it again.
And that was probably the one thing that stuck with me from the movie. Until now.
That's very funny.
As it should, because it's incredible, you know.
Yeah, and
Great
also
shot.
like the set design and lighting was really good.
Oh,
Honestly, in the 40s and 50s, set design was incredible in like movies and TV.
Yeah.
Like especially with things like doing quote unquote like stunt work. Like there's a Charlie Chaplin clip, I'm sure you've seen it, where he's like roller skating, and he like gets on that plank and like almost goes over the edge and goes back, and then almost goes over the edge but goes back, and like whenever like you see it from a different angle, the ledge isn't there, it's just painted onto the floor. But it looks so real because of like the limitations of technology at the time and stuff like that. But like the fact that like something like that would never be done today.
Never. Yeah.
Like they would probably just like green screen it, or God forbid actually do it.
yeah, God forbid we do
But
it.
nobody, like, they wouldn't like think to just like paint over the floor.
Yeah.
And that's something that I really like enjoy about movies and TV from this time period, is just like the sheer amount of like creativity that goes into creating these sets and like working with the limitations of what you have. I feel like a lot of people don't realize that like even the smallest amount of effort that you have to put into like setting a scene takes a lot of preparation and a lot of like knowing what you're doing. And with movies like Citizen Kane and other works from the 40s and 50s, like I don't think anybody really even knew what they were doing, but they were doing some really cool things.
Yes, yeah. Something I kept thinking while watching this was I kept thinking over and over. I'm just like, this was made in 1941.
Right.
If I was watching this in a theater in 1941, I would be losing my freaking mind. Because,
real?
And I say that because there was so much. Watching it, that I'm like, wow, that looks great, or wow, the set design is wonderful. Orson Welles is fantastic.
Of course.
So many positives that I was thinking while watching it, and I'm just like, well, okay, like I understand. I understand why the movie's as revered as it is, especially because it did come out in that time.
Right, and of course Orson Welles' performance is
fantastic,
incredible, still holds up
Yes.
to this day, I would say.
Yes.
There's like I had like a few nitpicks here and there, like who witnessed his last words?
Yeah.
Who was there in the room with him during the Rosebud moment, not doing anything as he was dying? Like, what asshole was that that just let Charles Foster Kane die in front of him?
I just saw Charles Foster Kane probably clutch his chest. Probably saw him sweating to some extent.
Right.
I'm sure he wasn't looking too good before he collapsed and broke the snow globe.
Right, because you see that part at the end of the movie. Like, you see him walk out of his destroyed office space or whatever that area was with the snow globe.
Right.
So, like, I imagine that there are some physical symptoms to currently actively having a heart attack.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. I haven't witnessed one personally.
Thankfully.
But, thankfully. I hope I never have to. But like nobody, like, did CPR not exist back then, or just what? Like, was there just like, oh man, there's nothing we can do?
Right.
He has resigned himself to death. Who are we to deny him his wishes?
Yeah, it's like, I guess everybody was so caught up on that darn Rosebud thing.
They were like, because they were all like looking. He had the door open when he destroyed the room, which I thought was hilarious. They were all just watching him do this. I guess they were like, man, that was crazy.
That's wild.
They were doing what I was doing during that scene. They were just like, whoa.
Whoa.
That's wild, man. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Good thing you're rich.
Maybe they were about to get a defibrillator, a 1940
1940s defibrillator.
Maybe they were about to get
Jumper
a defibrillator.
cables.
And somebody was about to run out the room, and they're just like, "Wait a second, what the hell's Rosebud?
What does that mean?
What the hell does that mean?"
Wow, crazy.
It's like, oh,
I'm gonna pontificate about this.
Yeah, let's get to the bottom of this.
and then they went back. By the time they finally got the 1940s defibrillator, they went back and he was dead.
Yeah, he was dead. It's like, oh, darn.
Nothing we can do.
Well, let's put together the newsreel, I guess.
Yeah, let's get the narrator in here. Let's get him to record all the headlines. The comedic moments in this movie, they're very few and far between, but they are really funny when they happen.
Right, yeah.
Like, I am drunk. Whenever Leland is completely hammered and talking about going to Chicago or something.
Yeah, it's like, I am drunk.
Yeah, that was really funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun when movies like that, they'll have their slivers of comedy,
Yeah, like it's a serious movie, but it doesn't take itself like too seriously, and I appreciate that in a movie.
Oh yeah, especially for a movie from back then. It still knew how to have fun and crack some jokes and every once in a while. But yeah, the comedy, there wasn't too much comedy that resonated with me while watching it, just because I felt very much locked into, you know, the scope of what the movie was as a
Of
whole.
course.
Because I'm just like, okay, like I was just very excited to see, like, okay, by the end of this, am I going to, you know, feel similarly to so many people who, you know, who believe that it's the best movie ever.
It was a pretty good movie, which I was surprised, honestly.
Yeah.
I expected to hate it a lot, honestly.
Yeah, I was dreading it a little bit because I was very prepared to not like it, and I was very much wrong. And
Yeah,
I'm glad that I was.
I'm glad that I did enjoy it, because I don't want to like be the guy in a group of film dudes who says I don't like Citizen Kane. I feel like that is a fate worse than death.
It's tough
To be like the one guy in a group of film bros that says I don't like Citizen Kane.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I might as well just like toss myself into a pit of alligators at that point. I'll get torn apart either way.
Yeah, that would be the road less traveled for sure.
Right.
But I mean, also, you know, thankfully there's been way more movies since Citizen Kane. So
Of course.
I feel I'd definitely argue with somebody a little bit who would think that Citizen Kane is like that. There's been nothing better.
Right.
Since.
I definitely wouldn't say it was like the greatest movie ever made.
Yeah.
But it is very impactful, and I do like see now like the reason why it does have
Yeah.
that impact.
Yes.
Because like for the time, very, very good. And even now, like it's still a really good movie. Like it holds up really well. One thing I want to ask you. Do you have a favorite character in Citizen Kane?
Oh,
Because I
man.
do.
Oh man. Aside from Kane himself, I'm not sure if I do, because I was pretty like enthralled with mostly just Orson Welles. I mean,
Orson Welles is great.
I say I was enthralled with, you know, with Kane, but I feel like I was mostly enthralled with the performance itself.
I hated Kane.
Kane
is the worst, and I think you're supposed to think that. I
Yeah.
hope you're supposed to think that. I don't know what people in the 40s were thinking. I did not like Charles Foster Kane at all, but I loved Orson Welles' portrayal of him.
Yes,
I thought that he gave a very good performance.
I thought it was incredible. But I was definitely most interested in Kane as a character, just because I'm like, okay, here's, you know, like it was easy to recognize, you know, this is a rise and fall situation, you know.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, like he's a great guy now.
Yeah, because like you've already heard about the fall. And
Yeah.
so you're just trying to like figure out like the whole movie, like you're trying to figure out where the tipping point is.
Yeah, I was very curious to see, you know, how he would react to stuff and how he would handle stuff, you know, throughout.
Yeah, and like my favorite character, I had a favorite character, was Mr. Bernstein.
Yeah.
Because he was just like a very like silly, nervous, like weasel of a man.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of character I relate to the most. like there was one part whenever Leland was talking to Mr. Bernstein about like something that Kane said about him. Like, what would you say if like Kane said this about me? And Mr. Bernstein said like, I'd say the same thing. You're a fool if you think I would tell you any different.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you go Bernstein.
you go, Bernstein.
Roast him. Get him.
Yeah.
Like it's very, very small win for my boy Bernstein.
Yes, yeah. He doesn't get a ton of W's, but good to see him.
But he does get them.
He does get them. That's what the Bernstein's all about.
The one thing that like I just like it created a bit of a disconnect for me watching this movie, because like I feel like it's a very tragic story that Charles Kane has. Like he's taken away from his family at a young age. He's literally like raised by a bank,
By rich people.
by rich bankers,
By rich old people.
rich old bankers, and then he like inherits all this money and becomes one of these rich people, but like tries to not like become a bad person.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to be. He wants to use his wealth for good.
Right.
And like I really admire that path for the character.
Yeah.
But then like he does become one of those people, and at that point, like, I can't really feel bad for him because
Yeah.
it's not like he's still the good person he was and he's just being forced to do these bad things. It's he's no longer the person he was and he's doing these bad things.
Right. Yeah.
And so, like, whenever he eventually, like, loses everything, I'm just like, ha, getting what you deserve.
It's like, well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Crazy how that works, I know.
Yeah. It's you can kind of see the track of it, because it's like, okay, he's got one paper, but you can see what his aspirations are.
Right, like, you know, like, by the end of it, he's gonna own like 37 papers.
Yeah.
He's gonna own like the third largest gold mine in the world or something like that.
Yep.
Like, he had that, like, hotel in Xanadu or whatever it was, the pyramid in
Yeah.
Xanadu.
Yeah.
Like, I don't trust a single rich person that owns a pyramid.
Dude,
Like,
that's a
as
good
a
motto. I don't know if I could either.
I like owning like a hotel is one thing. Owning a pyramid,
Why?
like, at that point,
At this point, you're just screwing around. with
you're
your
just
buddy,
like you're just buying things to
Yeah.
have them.
Yeah.
Which, like, fair enough, but I can't get behind that.
yeah. You're buying things to have them. It's like, okay, maybe you got nothing else to do. I mean, you got more money than you know what to do with.
Right.
I can't understand that, but
I don't understand that. Probably won't understand that. But, like,
I wouldn't either, but
the idea of, like, trying to feel bad for this character towards the end of the movie. I was kind of just, like, happy.
Yeah,
I was happy that he was getting what was coming to him. Like, well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions.
coming around. Yeah, I didn't feel a shred of sadness for the man at all, and I'm
Like, at the beginning, maybe.
maybe, yeah.
But he was still, like, a guy, like, by the time he became an adult, he wasn't, like, the kid that we saw getting hauled away from his family anymore.
Yeah.
Like, by that point, like, he was kind of like a bitter adult and like, still kind of rebellious as you can get, I suppose.
Yeah.
When you're raised by rich bankers.
Mm-hmm.
I like that era of the character
Yeah.
a lot. I like the I'll have to shut down in 60 years attitude. I like the I want to be everything you hate attitude. But then he becomes exactly like Mr. Thatcher by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Which is it's a very tragic story, and I love it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, like, by the end of the movie, I couldn't root for a single character.
No,
like,
no,
all of them sucked by the end.
Yeah, I really didn't care about any of the characters emotionally by the end, especially.
Except Bernstein.
Except, yeah.
I will always care about Mr.
We
Bernstein.
will always love and care for Mr. Bernstein.
I hope he's all right.
I'm sure he's doing great.
Sure. He was old in the 40s. I'm sure he's great now.
I'm sure he's wonderful now. Yeah. I think the only time that I truly felt bad for Kane was when he was getting taken away and then the news was being broke to him. And I'm remembering this now.
Also, he cheated on his wife.
He did cheat on his wife.
Very important thing to note there.
He did cheat on his wife. But yeah,
And then married the woman that he cheated on his wife with.
Yeah.
Which was like when that happened, I was just like, oh, well, this is going to be another thing that ends poorly.
it's like, okay, cool. You doubled down. I'm sure nothing bad is going to happen.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm sure you'll be so much happier. I'm sure she'll be a great singer. But yeah, the only time I felt bad was when they're breaking the news to him, and he's like, "Oh, Mom, you're not coming," and he's like, "No," and they were breaking it to him gently at first, and I'm pretty sure eventually the dad's just like, "You're gonna go live with this guy now,"
which was wild to me because, like, his dad, like, at first, whenever they're in the house talking to Mr. Thatcher, his dad is, like, super adamant that the guy isn't going to take Charles. But then, like, as soon as they walk outside, he just, like, completely flips a switch and is just like, you're going to go on a trip with this man. You're going to see the world.
Yep.
And then Charles is, like, refusing. He's like, says, all right, man, I'm going to beat you if you don't go with this man right now. It's just like, wow.
Yeah,
crazy.
He does threaten to beat him if he doesn't go,
and
then
tells Thatcher to also beat him.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you better beat my son now. Yeah, it's like, dude,
Just like, man,
And then
kind of harsh.
yeah, and then his mom, I think she said, she's like, yeah, that's why we're trying to get him away from that.
Yeah, which like cool mom moment.
It's like cool,
Very
cool
very epic mom moment.
epic mom moment.
Yeah,
Still gave your son away, but epic mom moment.
Yeah, you do it. You do what you can.
Parenting's hard,
Yeah, of course. I wanted to talk about the tantrum scene a little bit where he
Yes.
destroys the office, because that was one of my favorite scenes.
It was sick.
Because like the purpose of art is to evoke emotion, and the emotion that this scene invoked in me was kind of like not anger per se, but it was irritating because like Kane just rightfully lost his second wife because of things that he did, and then he destroys this entire room in his house.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow, like I can't fathom the like having the amount of money that he must have that you can just do that, destroy all the things that he did without a second thought.
Yeah.
And like go on such a rampage and not care.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. He tore through all, and the whole movie we're talking about, they talk about him buying statues and art and whatever, and they play it up, and
Right.
and then we get there and it's like, oh wow, a rich person breaking all of these
Breaking all this stuff.
yeah, all of these sculptures and art and stuff.
What an entitled brat.
Yeah, it's like watching a temper tantrum.
That's what I wrote it in my notes as the tantrum.
Yeah. I think I wrote that in my notes as like, God, that just looks so fun. It
looks like a lot of fun.
Looks like a lot of fun.
I wish that I had the ability to just go into one of the rooms in my apartment and completely trash it and not have to worry about the consequences.
Yeah. Imagine that. You're
Like
just,
he can replace all that stuff and barely make a dent in all the money he has.
Right. Yeah. It didn't matter. Yeah. It comes off as a temper tantrum, and that's got to be by design.
I think it's supposed to be, because the whole movie is like a character study, essentially. Like you're not like going through a story that is currently happening. You are learning about the life of a person that didn't really get to have a childhood, basically.
Right.
And I think that this scene is kind of emblematic of that, of like the person that he wanted to be, kind of, for lack of a better term, like who he was died at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But Charles Foster Kane died as soon as he got taken by Mr. Thatcher.
Yes.
In my mind.
100%.
Because, like, he never got to be a kid again, really. Like, he was always just in this life of wealth and power.
Yep.
And I think that this scene is sort of like that kid inside of him, like, coming back to the surface and realizing, like, I could have had everything and now I have nothing.
Yeah.
And just, like, throwing a fit, essentially.
Yeah.
And then, like, it's even more of that whenever, like, he finds the snow globe and that tears him out of it, because spoiler alert, Rosebud is his sled that he had as a kid.
Yeah.
It's a sled that says the word Rosebud on it.
Yeah.
And he finds this snow globe, and it reminds him of that, and that's what makes him stop destroying things, and then he goes and dies.
Yeah, and then he dies. He makes the connection. We make the connection.
We make the connection.
And then he dies.
Yeah, and then he dies.
And it's like,
very
holy
tragic.
shit. Yeah, and I imagine being how old? I don't know exactly how old. Less than 10, easily. When he
I think he was like. I think they said he was like 8 years old.
8 years old. That sounds right. I would say like 6 or 8 or whatever it was. But yeah, I think his dad tells, you're gonna be one of the richest men in the world at some point.
Right.
It's
and
like, what kid that's 8 gives a shit about that?
Straight up.
It's like
I didn't know what money was when I was 8.
We just watched this kid in the window. Great shot, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
The
Really
shot
good.
of them three talking inside, and then he's in the window.
Like over the shoulder of his mom looking through the window. Very good.
Yeah. Oh, that whole thing, phenomenal. It's like, oh yeah, this is a kid, we're watching him play outside. He cares about playing outside.
Right.
And,
like
and
when I was 8, all I cared about was like my Transformers toys.
Yeah. I cared about Star Wars and being outside. I don't know.
I didn't have a concept of wealth.
Yeah, I didn't know what money was.
You think I knew what money was?
Yeah,
I knew what quarters were.
Yeah, you could have told me that. Yeah, you could have told me anything as a kid, and I would have just been like, yeah, okay, it's like you're a kid.
Yeah, and then like I also one of the last shots in the movie one that I really enjoyed is like that big like warehouse full of all of his stuff.
Yeah.
Whenever it's like panning over it, it looks like a city skyline.
Yeah.
And I really like that because like it made me sort of think like this is sort of representative about like how much Charles Foster Kane like tried to have and like how much he lost in his life. It's like it looks like a city and it's insane. And then like they're throwing stuff in the incinerator that they deem as trash, and like that's whenever you get the Rosebud twist with the sled. They throw the sled in the incinerator, and it's sort of like the last piece of Charles Foster Kane dying, kind of like with that sled, like the last shred of anything good in his life dies with that sled.
The last shred of him being, you know, an actual person,
right? Instead of whatever he was by the end of his life, whatever like rich Wall Street banker dude he was by the end.
Rich, wealthy, owns everything, buys everything, incredibly unhappy.
Newspaper titan.
Yeah, newspaper tycoon, if you will. But it's you're right. Seeing that as like a city skyline built by him just desperately trying to find the happiness or the satisfaction or whatever it was, you know, that he was searching for as a person. Clearly never found it.
Right.
Clearly never found it.
Thought he found it.
Here's an entire room of stuff
and also,
to show you that he never found it.
So, I believe we are ready to rate this movie now. So, I'm going to explain the rating scale real quick. Paddington 2 is a very highly rated movie across all of the internet.
As it should be.
As it should be. So I went and I took a bunch of the different ratings across a bunch of different websites, Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, Metacritic, and even Letterboxd, because I feel like we should get the public opinion in as well.
Yes.
And I averaged them out to a star rating out of 5, and the average rating that Paddington 2 has is about 4 stars. So that's going to be our baseline. If it's above 4 stars, it's better than Paddington 2. If it's below 4 stars, it is not better than Paddington 2. So the way that we are going to rate this, we're going to rate Citizen Kane, is we are going to give it 2 out of 5 ratings for the overall quality of the movie, the objective quality of the movie, and our overall enjoyment of the movie. And then we're going to average out those numbers, and that's going to be the total rating that Citizen Kane has. That's going to determine if it is better than Paddington 2 or not.
All right.
So I'm going to go ahead and get my ratings out of the way.
Yes, please.
In terms of quality, I'd give it about a 4.
Okay.
4 out of 5.
Yeah.
There are some things that I think don't work in terms of quality. I feel like the lighting could be better in some moments. Like I feel like they really sacrificed the lighting to keep Mr. Thompson out of sight in some parts.
Yeah.
And there's also like just some things that like haven't aged super well, but it is still like incredible for the time it was made and really well done.
Yes.
For now. And in terms of enjoyment, I gave it a 3.
3.
Probably maybe a little controversial, I don't know, but you know, a 3. I like dumb movies. I like dumb, stupid movies that I can turn my brain off to. Citizen Kane is not a dumb, stupid movie.
Definitely not a dumb, stupid movie. Definitely not.
You heard it here first, folks. Citizen Kane is not dumb or stupid. It's a really, really deep and kind of depressing character study of Charles Foster Kane, and I did really enjoy it.
Yeah.
But there are some movies that I just enjoy a lot more, and like this just isn't the type of movie that I typically watch or enjoy. Like I probably will not rewatch this movie at least for a very long time,
Right.
just because like it doesn't have that factor for me of like, oh, I love that, I can't wait to see it again.
Yeah.
Something like that. So that brings my rating to an average of about 3, rounding down.
So I was really wanting, maybe not wanting, but no, wanting. I was very prepared. We'll say prepared. I was prepared to not enjoy it, and I was prepared to say, no, this did not, this, I don't see it, it's good, but whatever. But as far as objective quality, I would give it a 5.
That is fair.
The look of it, I love the way that it looks. I really enjoyed the lighting and the cinematography, and there's just so many great shots. There's a lot. I'm a whore for a good match cut. You know?
Yeah,
I love me a good match cut.
That was one thing I had. Like the transitions in this movie,
the editing kicks ass,
especially in like the montage of like Kane's first few years on the newspaper.
Yeah.
Like that, like the match cuts there, seamless.
Yeah, there's many great match cuts, and then just throughout it kept emotionally. We'll talk about the emotion of it, and
Right.
I'll talk about that in a second, I guess. But as far as objective quality, I'd have a hard time not giving it a 5. The filmmaking aspects were incredible, and that was mostly what was that, along with the story and stuff, obviously outside of the physical filmmaking parts. But I was pretty locked into it throughout
Right.
because of that, as far as objective quality.
Right. And in terms of enjoyment,
And in terms of enjoyment, slightly different battle there. I would give it a hot 3 out of 5 for that.
Fair enough.
Simply because of the lack of emotion that I felt throughout it, because I didn't really, as we talked about, it's like I don't really care if he throws his life away, and
Right.
and that becomes the point, and I understand that. But as far as empathy and a movie that makes you feel things, I didn't see Citizen Kane as that kind of movie for me, at least.
Right.
It didn't really strike many emotional chords with me throughout, and at the end of the day, I feel like if I'm watching a movie and you make me feel something, if I feel something intensely while watching a movie, that will significantly change my perception of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't get a ton of that with Citizen
Right.
Kane. A fantastic movie,
Of course.
great movie, but emotionally it's a little different.
Yeah. So I believe your ratings average out to a 4, 5 and a 3. I believe averaged out to 4. Mine averaged out to about a 3.
Okay.
So averaging out a score of about 3.5.
3.5.
3.5 out of 5, which we are going to follow the rules of rounding and round it up to a solid 4. Which means that Citizen Kane is just as good as Paddington 2.
Yes.
Which is, I would consider that a win. I honestly
win.
expected it to end up being worse.
Yeah, I was also expecting it to be worse.
So you heard it here first, folks. Citizen Kane is not better or worse than Paddington 2. It is just as good. It has just as much to offer to you as a silly little bear in a hat.
Yes, two goats at the top of the mountain.
Yeah,
Paddington
real
2 and
recognizes
Citizen
real.
Paddington the bear recognizes Charles Foster Kane.
Absolutely.
They tip their caps to each other.
One legend to another.
Yes.
All
But
right, well, I think that's going to do us for this episode
All right.
of Is It Better Than Paddington 2? Adam,
Yes.
thank you for being here.
Dude, thanks so much for having me, man.
This was
a
a
great
joy.
time.
I'm going to have a hard time editing this.
Dude, yeah, good luck with editing. I'm going to go home.
Yeah, I have a while.
Yeah, you-
But I really appreciate it.
Dude, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, people, for
Thank
watching
you.
this.
Yeah, thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Yes. Go watch Paddington 2.
So, go watch
and
Paddington
Citizen
2 and go
Kane.
watch Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
Both great movies. All right.
Fantastic movies.
All right, that's all.
All right.
Bye.